David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So I'm back in Australia, I'm back in the home country, and there's a high possibility this will be the first podcast I literally fall asleep in the middle of. I am fucking exhausted. I don't know how long it's been since I slept last, but I probably got like maybe 40 minutes of sleep in 8-minute chunks. It wasn't a lot. I'm sitting in my new apartment in Sydney. I'm still trying to wrap my head around being in Sydney again. And I'm also trying to wrap my head around not being in India anymore. And that affected me a lot more than I thought it was going to affect me. Fucking leaving last night, the boy Al fucking shed a few tears. Like the day before, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to have to fucking muster up some emotion when I leave. Otherwise, it's going to seem like it's real fucking cold to have been here for a year. And then like, all right, catch us later. Have a good one. See you in, I don't know, a couple of years or something. Like, that's cold. And the Indians shed a tear if you're leaving for like 3 days. But I didn't need to muster anything because it fucking flowed. I was in the bedroom. I was in the bedroom leaving for the last time. And I was like, fuck. I had a look at it. And I was like, fuck, it's been a great time. And I said goodbye to the room. And I went downstairs. And I forgot something up in the room. So I went back upstairs. And when I was on my way back upstairs, I could hear people like sniffling and crying downstairs. So I got to the room, found what I was looking for. I forget what it was. And then I said another goodbye to the room. And this time I started welling up. My eyes started watering. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I left the room and I started walking downstairs. And by the time I got downstairs, the tears were flowing. I'm like, this hasn't happened before. What the fuck is this? And I was probably the most emotional. Everyone was shocked, but I was fucking real teary. I don't think I was truly even ready to leave India. So it was a little bit of a shock to me that I was tearing up as well. So I pulled it together because I could have really let rip. I reckon I could have cried for about 2 hours without stopping. If no one was there, I would have just fucking let rip. I needed to cry. I need to cry. So I pull it together a little bit and then I walk out to the car and then I see my son and my son is like real. He's battling. He's trying to muffle it as well, but he is fucking emotional as fuck. Then when I see him, my tears kick off again. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I was not expecting this. And then I fucking had a few tears dripping the whole way to the airport in the car. Lucky I was sitting in the front seat. I couldn't control it. What was getting me really emotional was like, it's closing that chapter of a period of time. Like nothing is ever going to be the same as that again. Even if we go back for a year or 2 years or go back to live, nothing is going to be the same as that. So it's like special and unique in its own right and it will never be replicated. So that idea was like getting stuck in my head and I was finding it very difficult to shake. And then my kid would be tearing up and he'd say shit like, it feels like we're never going to see them again. And I'm like, oh, this is brutal. And I've got the fucking flight to come. So the flight, it was a nightmare and it was as good as it possibly could have been. It couldn't have been any better than it was and it was still hell. There was like 5 or 6 things that just went perfectly to my advantage and it was still a fucking nightmare. So we get to the airport and my father-in-law has a friend of a friend who works at Sri Lanka Airlines and he's going to wrangle us some extra luggage and he's going to get me good seats or something and he's going to help me get to the gate or whatever. So I go to check in and I'm looking for Suresh. Where's Suresh? That's the name I got given. Are you Suresh? Are you? And then I find Suresh and he's like, don't worry about it. I'll look after you. I'm like, that sounds good. So I've got 3 massive suitcases. I've got a massive duffel bag, which is maybe like 10, 15 kilos. I've got a backpack. I've got my kid's backpack. I've got a small suitcase and my kid's suitcase. No, my kid's suitcase is the small suitcase. So I have blown out the fucking baggage allowance, but my fucking in-laws were telling me, don't worry about it. We'll sort it out for you. I'm like, who the fuck do you know at Sri Lanka Airlines that's just going to fucking throw some bags on? So I had a 70 kilo checked in luggage allowance and I took about 85 kilos, which is a lot over. It was my duffel bag over. It was 3 big suitcases and my duffel bag. So there was a little bit of commotion back and forth between Suresh and the guy at the counter, whatever. I don't even know what was going on. And then they came to it. They said, yeah, chuck the duffel bag on, which saved my life. If I was carrying that, I would still be in Sri Lanka. There's fucking no way I could have done it. Just the amount of weight and the awkwardness of carrying this shit and the baby and the pram and my fucking sleepwalking kid. So the duffel bag getting checked in saved me. And then he's like, I got you window seats on the fucking second flight from Colombo to Sydney. And I'm like, that'll do. That will be sweet. So I hop on the first flight and it's shit. This is only an hour and a half flight to Sri Lanka. And I've got fucking my daughter sitting on me. She's wriggling like fuck. I can't get comfortable. There's some dude next to me snoring. My other kid is just wriggling around as well. He's out. I'm like, this is going to be a hard hour and a half, but I'm more concerned about the fucking 10 hours that's coming up in exactly the same seats as we got now. So we did that short flight. My kids didn't fall asleep till 2 a.m. So it was only an hour and a half flight, but they were out cold at the end of that flight. So I had to half carry my son because he just could not wake up. Carrying my daughter, getting the bags, getting the fucking pram, juggling all of it, then trying to get fucking boarding passes out, documents out. My son's lying on the ground asleep in the line, holding up the whole line. I'm trying to shake him violently to wake him up. He's not waking up. So I'm dragging him, dragging everything. We get on this second flight. There was meant to be 2 hours between flights. But once we got off the first flight and boarded the second flight, it ended up being like half an hour in Sri Lanka. And then fucking off we were. So I'm trying to get on this second flight. And my son is just, he's falling asleep, standing up, and he's swaying. Like he's going to fucking collapse and like eat shit. So I'm trying to drag him. My daughter's head is like flopping around because I'm bending over and shit like that. She's out. Her neck is doing a little bit of work. I'm kicking the bags down the aisle of this flight now. And then a Sri Lankan Airlines lady comes over and she's like, are you just by yourself? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, all right, hold on. And she grabs my son and fucking takes him to the seat, comes back, gets my bags, fucking helps me, everything sorted there. We get to the seat and this time it's just 2. It's a window seat and a seat next to it. So it's better than a 3-seater with some other cunt there. So you can have your little space, but it's still a nightmare. There's still not enough room for me, an infant, and a child, especially when they're out cold. But you just got to do what you got to do. And I was like, I just have to fucking sit here and just cop it. I'm fine with that. As long as the kids are asleep, that's all right. I'm just going to have to fucking push through. So the plane takes off. We're in the air for about half an hour, 40 minutes. And I'm like flickering in and out of sleep. I'm like getting a minute here and there. And one of the air hostess dudes, I suppose he's not a fucking air hostess, is he? He comes over and he's like, hey, do you want like a 4-seater? Do you want a middle seat with the 4 seats so you can all like stretch out and sleep? I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I 100% do. He's like, all right, give me 2 minutes. And I watch him. He walked down the aisle. He shifted like Tetris, like 6 different people to clear a 4-seat aisle thing. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's going to happen. And he comes back. He's like, it's all sorted. Come on down. I'll bring all the shit down. So I go and we've got the 4 middle seats just sorted. So I put the kids either side of me, stretched out, and they just slept for like 5 or 6 hours. I was in the middle of them though, and I couldn't move at all. I couldn't move either way. There was no possible way I could get comfortable. And twice I woke up and it felt like I had fucking paralysis. My full leg went numb, everything. My right leg from my ass to the very tip of my toe, I could not feel anything twice. I'm like, that's not a good sign either. But the kids got some sleep, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? The only problem was the kids got some sleep. So when they woke up, they're all energetic and fired up and shit, and Dada still hasn't had a fucking wink. So I just had to fucking plow through that. It just wasn't fun. Every time you turn to stop one of your fucking idiot kids doing something, the other one starts doing something crazy. Like at the baggage claim, I put my daughter down for 2 seconds. She goes to like lick the floor, and I go to stop her, and I turn around, and my fucking son is riding the fucking baggage escalator or whatever the fuck it's called. The baggage go round. He's like on top of a suitcase waving out to me like it's a fucking ride. Anyway, I did it. It couldn't have gone better. It went as smooth as it possibly could, and I will never fucking do that again. If one of those things didn't happen, if I still had my duffel bag, if I didn't get that 4 seat, if that lady didn't help me, any one of those events would have broken my spirit. It was teetering as it is. Anyway, I am fucking tired. I need to get to sleep. I need to readjust to the fact that I'm living in Sydney again. I've got a lot of soul searching to do over the next couple of days. Anyway, that's that, and I'll see you the fuck later.